On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 sliced through the night sky above Kuala Lumpur, carrying 239 souls with their dreams, hopes, and secrets. Just 38 minutes after takeoff, the pilot's calm voice crackled over the radio with words that seemed routine. "Good night, Malaysian. 370. Those were the last words the world ever heard from flight MH370. Then the plane vanished, as if swallowed by the darkness of the ocean. No distress call, no immediate wreckage, no explanation. In an age where everything is tracked, how could a 200-ton machine filled with people disappear without a trace? That question has haunted millions, from grieving families to frustrated investigators, and even people like us, drawn into one of the greatest mysteries of the 21st century. Picture the scene at Kuala Lumpur International Airport that night. Passengers hurrying with suitcases, the hum of flight announcements and neon lights glowing in the terminal. It's a familiar place where journeys begin: vacations, business trips, reunions. But for MH370, that journey became one with no destination. The plane took off at 12:41 a.m., bound for Beijing, carrying 227 passengers from 14 countries and 12 crew members. Among them was Liu Rusheng, a 76-year-old Chinese calligrapher fresh from an art exhibition in Malaysia, clutching paintings still fragrant with ink. There was Maimuna Ibrahim, a Malaysian mother eager to visit her son in Beijing, carrying a hand-embroidered handkerchief she planned to give him. And in the cockpit, Zahari Ahmad Shah, the 53-year-old captain, a man described by colleagues as dedicated and cheerful, but perhaps hiding a secret no one could have imagined. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's bustling capital, is where this story begins, but the true setting of this mystery lies elsewhere. Somewhere far darker and colder, the southern Indian Ocean. Known as the Seventh Ark in investigation reports, this region is one of the most isolated places on Earth. Its waters plunge to depths of 7,000 meters. Waves roar endlessly, and no radar can pierce the thick veil of night. That's where MH370 is believed to have ended its journey, if it crashed at all. But what led a state-of-the-art airliner packed with advanced technology to stray into that abyss, and why over a decade later haven't we found it? Malaysia in 2014 was a vibrant multicultural nation where Islamic, Buddhist, and Hindu communities coexisted, but also a place steeped in superstition and spiritual beliefs. When MH370 vanished, whispers began about curses, angry spirits, or even extraterrestrial forces. Rituals were held on beaches with incense smoke curling into the air, and prayers echoing as if the ocean held a secret it refused to share. The story of MH370 isn't just a disappearance. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest fears about the unknown, about darkness swallowing light. Let's meet the people caught in this whirlwind of mystery. Zahari Ahmad Shah, the captain, is both familiar and enigmatic. At 53, he was a composed man with salt and pepper hair and a warm smile. With over 18,000 flight hours, he was the kind of pilot you'd trust implicitly. Zahari loved his job so much, he built a homemade flight simulator at home, spending hours practicing scenarios. He shared recipes online, teaching fans how to make Malaysian fried rice, and mentored young pilots. But beneath that perfect exterior, something lurked. Here's what chills me on his simulator's hard drive. Investigators found a deleted flight path, one eerily similar to the route MH370 is thought to have taken south into the Indian Ocean, a place of no light, no life. Was it coincidence or a sign of something sinister? Next to Zahari was Farik Abdul Hamid, the 27-year-old first officer, a young man with bright eyes and a radiant smile. Recently engaged, Farik was set to marry another pilot, his life full of promise. With only 763 flight hours, he was less experienced, but described as ambitious and devout. There's no evidence he had ulterior motives, but his presence in the cockpit raises questions. Did he know what was happening when the plane veered off course, or was he just an innocent caught in a nightmare? The passengers on MH370 were a tapestry of humanity. Liu Rusheng, with his frail hands and thoughtful gaze, had spent a lifetime crafting perfect calligraphy, bringing Chinese culture to the world. He boarded the plane dreaming of home, where his family awaited. Maimuna Ibrahim, a middle-aged woman with neatly tied hair and a gentle smile, carried that embroidered handkerchief, a gift for her son. These weren't just names on a manifest. They had dreams, families, stories left untold. But that night, everything was cut short, leaving a void with no answers. The context of MH370 extends beyond Kuala Lumpur or the Indian Ocean. It's a story about a world shaken by technology's limits. In 2014, we believed everything could be tracked from your phone to satellites in orbit. Yet MH370 shattered that belief. Equipped with ACARS, a transponder, and satellite links, the plane's systems were deliberately disabled, as if someone erased its existence. This leads us to the initial theories, the paths this mystery might take us down. First, it could be a deliberate act from the cockpit, a theory that sends shivers down my spine. Zahari, with his vast experience, might have planned something unimaginable. The simulator data, the manual disabling of the transponder, and the plane's path all point to him. But the weakness, no clear motive. His family insists he showed no signs of distress, left no suicide note, no warning. If it was him, what drove a man who loved life to such an extreme? Second, a technical failure like a fire in the electronics bay or depressurization could explain the silence from the cockpit. It accounts for the lack of communication, but not the manual disabling of systems. If it was a malfunction, the crew would have sent a distress signal, yet there was nothing. Third, a hijacking by passengers or crew is another possibility. The plane's sudden course change suggests someone took control. But who? Two Iranian passengers with fake passports were initially suspected, but they were cleared as asylum seekers, not terrorists. No group claimed responsibility, and hijacking a 777 requires skills beyond most passengers. Fourth, and this one grabs the curious, could it be supernatural? Some speculate about UFOs, time warps, or otherworldly forces. The absence of wreckage fuels these ideas, but the debris found on Reunion and Mauritius grounds us in reality. There's no scientific evidence for extraterrestrial involvement. Finally, some believe in a military conspiracy that MH370 was shot down or diverted to a secret base like Diego Garcia. It sounds like a Hollywood thriller but lacks evidence. Hiding a 777 with 239 people is nearly impossible in today's world. My personal take. I can't stop thinking about Zahari. Not because I believe he's evil, but because I sense something deeper in his story. A man with a seemingly perfect life, yet maybe wrestling with demons no one saw. That deleted simulator wrote, feels like a whisper from the past, a clue he left intentionally or not. I wonder, was he trying to tell us something, a message buried beneath the ocean? To unravel what happened to MH370, we need to go back to that fateful night when the plane strayed from its path and plunged into darkness. The first clues from Zahari's final words to the eerie satellite signals are waiting for us, ready to lead us closer to the truth, or perhaps only deeper into the mystery. With those final words, "Good night, Malaysian 370," Zahari Ahmad Shah's voice faded into the night, and the world had no idea a chilling mystery was unfolding. On March 8, 2014, Flight MH370 left Kuala Lumpur carrying 239 people and embarked on a journey no one can fully explain. To understand how this plane vanished, we need to dive into the events of that fateful night, from the moment it took off to its last signals, and the haunting clues it left behind, like fragments of a puzzle that refuses to come together. Let's start at the beginning. At 12:41 a.m., the Boeing 777-200ER flight MH370 rolled down the runway at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. The night was clear, not a cloud in sight, no hint of trouble. In the cockpit, Zahari, with 18,000 flight hours, handled the controls with the confidence of a seasoned pilot. Beside him was Farik Abdul Hamid, the 27-year-old first officer learning from the veteran. Passengers from Liu Rasheng with his precious calligraphy to Maimuna Ibrahim, dreaming of her son, settled into their seats, perhaps dozing or flipping through in-flight magazines. Everything was routine like any other red-eye flight. But 38 minutes later, everything changed. At 1:19 a.m., MH370 was cruising at 35,000 feet over the Gulf of Thailand, preparing to hand off communication from Malaysian to Vietnamese air traffic control. That's when Zahari spoke his final words, "Good night, Malaysian 370. His voice was steady, no trace of panic. But moments later, the plane's transponder, the device broadcasting its location, went dark. This wasn't a glitch. Transponders don't just fail. They require someone in the cockpit to manually disable them with precise knowledge of the system. Air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City scrambled, calling MH370 repeatedly, but were met with an eerie silence. The plane had vanished from civilian radar as if it never existed. But the story doesn't end there. Thanks to Malaysian military radar, we know MH370 didn't crash immediately. Instead, it did something bizarre. It turned sharply west, flying back over the Malaysian peninsula. Imagine this, a plane carrying hundreds of people silently crossing the night sky. No signals, no communication, a ghost gliding over sleeping towns below. Radar tracked it over the Malacca Strait, then the north toward the Andaman Sea, before it was last detected at 2:15 a.m. But even stranger is the data from Inmarsat, a British satellite company. Despite the transponder and ACRs being disabled, the plane sent periodic ping signals via satellite like faint heartbeats. These pings revealed MH370 flew for another 7 hours, heading south into the Indian Ocean, a desolate, icy expanse with no airports, no land, nothing but darkness and waves. Pause for a moment to feel the chilling weight of that detail. For 7 hours, what was happening on that plane? Did the passengers know they were off course, drifting further from Beijing from their lives? Were they unconscious, caught in a fate they couldn't grasp? And in the cockpit, what were Zahari and Farik doing? Did one of them deliberately steer the plane into oblivion, or were they both victims of a larger tragedy, the space inside MH370 during those hours feels like a nightmare. Dim lights from the control panel, the steady roar of engines, and outside, an endless void of ocean. It gives me chills thinking about the isolation, the helplessness, and the mystery enveloping that cabin. Now let's talk about the clues. MH370 left behind the fragments that both illuminate and deepen the enigma. First, the transponder and ACRs were manually disabled. ACRs, which sends technical data, also requires expertise to shut off. This suggests whoever did it, Zahari, Farik, or someone else in the cockpit, knew exactly what they were doing. But why? If it was a technical issue, why no distress call? If it was intentional, what was the goal? The second clue is the plane's bizarre flight path. Military radar showed it didn't just turn. It changed altitude erratically. At one point, it climbed to 45,000 feet beyond the 777 safe limit, then dropped to 23,000 feet. These shifts suggest chaos, a struggle in the cockpit, an attempt to evade radar, or a malfunctioning system. Even more unsettling, not a single passenger sent a message or call during those 7 hours. In other air disasters, like 9/11's passengers often reached out to loved ones. So why was MH370 silent? Were they incapacitated by depressurization, or was something else at play? The third clue, and perhaps the most haunting, came from Zahari's home. After the disappearance, Malaysian police searched his house and found his homemade flight simulator, a setup mimicking a real cockpit. The FBI uncovered a deleted flight path on its hard drive, simulating a route from Kuala Lumpur through the Malacca Strait and south into the Indian Ocean, almost identical to MH370's suspected path. This data was logged weeks before March 8th. I get goosebumps imagining Zahari alone in his room, simulating a flight to nowhere. Was he practicing planning, or was it just a coincidence that's haunted him ever since? Finally, there's the debris, the scant remnants of MH370. Not until July 2015, over a year later, was a flaperon found on Reunion Island, thousands of miles from the search area. Later fragments appeared in Mauritius and Madagascar. These twisted, wave-worn pieces told a grim story. MH370 likely hit the ocean at high speed, shattering into thousands of fragments. But what's strange is the absence of body's luggage or seats, nothing to indicate the 239 people aboard. The ocean swallowed them, leaving only a few scraps as a taunting reminder. The timeline of MH370 is a string of unanswered questions. At 12:41 a.m. it took off. At 1:19 a.m. the transponder went offline and it turned west. By 2:15 a.m. military radar lost it. From 2:15 a.m. to 8:19 a.m. Inmarsat pings showed it flying south, likely until it ran out of fuel and crashed. But what happened in the cockpit? Why no passenger communications? And where is the main wreckage? These details create a chilling, almost surreal atmosphere. Picture the cockpit at 1:19 a.m. moments after Zahari's goodnight. The control panel glows faintly, casting shadows on the pilots' faces. Outside, darkness presses against the windows, stars twinkling far above. Then a soft beep, and the transponder goes silent. The engines hum steadily, but the plane banks quietly, abandoning its path to Beijing. Below the southern Indian Ocean waits its black waves, hiding secrets. The only sound might be the wind whistling past like a whisper from the void. I can't stop thinking about the passengers during those hours. Liu Rusheng perhaps clutching his calligraphy, dreaming of home. Maimuna may be tracing the stitches on her handkerchief, thinking of her son's smile. They didn't know the plane was off course, that their fates were being sealed by events no one understands. And Zahari, if he was at the controls, what was he thinking? Did he see the ocean below as an escape, or was he trapped in his own mind? These clues lead to a web of theories, each opening a new door, but shrouded in shadow. First, the theory that Zahari deliberately diverted the plane remains the most haunting. The simulator data, transponder's shutdown, and flight path all point to him. But why no terrorism links, no financial motive, no explanation? If he did it, he took his reasons to the grave. Second, a technical failure like a fire or depressurization could explain the silence. It accounts for the lack of communication, but not the manual system shutdowns. Why no emergency signal? How did the plane fly so precisely for 7 hours? Third, a hijacking by passengers or crew is possible but flawed. The deliberate course change suggests control, but no suspects had the skills and no demands were made. Fourth, the supernatural UFOs or time warps captures the imagination. The lack of wreckage fuels these ideas, but the debris grounds us in reality. My take. This isn't just about a missing plane. It's about what we don't see, the cracks in a person's soul, the secrets behind a smile. Zahari's simulator feels like a key. I don't think he was evil, but maybe lost. And his actions swept 238 others into the dark. To dig deeper, we need to look at what came next. The desperate search, the mounting theories, and the tears of those left behind. With those cryptic clues from Zahari's final goodnight to debris washing ashore, Thousands of miles away, the world launched into a frantic quest for answers. Flight MH370 didn't just vanish from the skies. It left a gaping void in the hearts of those left behind, from grieving families to baffled investigators. But as clues surfaced from satellite data to the simulator in Zahari's home, the story didn't clarify. Instead, it grew more tangled, like a labyrinth with no exit. The search efforts, piling theories, and buried secrets turned MH370 into a puzzle that over a decade later, we still can't solve. The moment MH370 lost contact at 1:19 a.m. on March 8, 2014, air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City plunged into chaos. They called the plane, repeatedly met only by a chilling silence. By 2:15 a.m., when Malaysian military radar spotted it veering west over the Malacca Strait, it was clear this wasn't a routine mishap. Shockingly, the initial response was agonizingly slow. Malaysia didn't immediately alert neighboring countries or launch a massive search. It took hours to realize MH370 hadn't just gone missing. It had deliberately strayed or been led into a mysterious journey. The investigation split into two fronts. Malaysian police focused on the crew and passengers, while the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, led the underwater search. Police raided the homes of Zahari Ahmad Shah and Fariq Abdul Hamid, the men in the cockpit when it all went wrong. At Zahari's house, they found his homemade flight simulator, a near replica of a cockpit complete with screens and controls. When the FBI got involved, they uncovered a detail that stunned the world: a deleted flight path simulating a route from Kuala Lumpur to the southern Indian Ocean, nearly identical to MH370's suspected trajectory. This was logged weeks before March 8th. I get chills imagining Zahari alone in the dark, simulating a flight to nowhere. Was he practicing planning? Or did he leave a clue that's haunted him ever since? Meanwhile, police scrutinized passengers, especially two Iranians using fake passports, Puria Noor Mohammed Merdad and Delavar Sayed Mohammed Reza. Initially suspected of terrorism, they were later cleared by Interpol as asylum seekers fleeing Iran, not threats. The other passengers, from Liu Rusheng, the calligrapher, to Maimuna Ibrahim, the mother, had clean records, no ties to suspicious activity. If not passengers, then who sent MH370 off course? The underwater search led by ATSB was one of history's costliest and most ambitious. With over $200 million, teams scoured 120,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean along the 7th arc, calculated from Inmarsat's pings. They used unmanned submersibles, sonar, and experts from Australia, Malaysia, and the UK. But the southern Indian Ocean is another world, waters 7,000 meters deep, a jagged seabed of volcanic ridges and trenches. Day after day, hope faded. By 2017, after 3 years of nothing but frustration, ATSB halted the search. I can't imagine the investigators' despair, facing an ocean so vast, knowing the answer might be right beneath them, yet out of reach. But there was a glimmer of hope. In July 2015, a flaperon from MH370 washed up on Reunion Island, thousands of miles away. Later, fragments appeared in Mauritius and Madagascar. These mangled, wave-worn pieces confirmed MH370 crashed, likely at high speed, shattering into thousands of bits. But no bodies, no black box, no seats, nothing to mark the 239 lives aboard. The ocean held its secrets, offering only scraps as a cruel tease. While investigators battled the deep, communities joined the search in their own way. Victim families like Voice 370 pressured Malaysia's government for transparency and continued efforts. On social media, especially Reddit and X, thousands of internet sleuths analyzed Inmarsat data, radar, and satellite images. Some claimed to spot the wreck on Google Earth, only to find dead ends. These efforts showed MH370's grip on the world, but also spread misinformation UFOs' secret bases, sometimes overshadowing the real tragedy hurting families further. A private company, Ocean Infinity, brought renewed hope. In 2018, they searched the Indian Ocean with advanced tech, finding nothing but vowing to return in 2025, guided by new debris drift models. Yet even with cutting-edge tools, the ocean remains a formidable foe. I wonder, is it hiding MH370 on purpose? Or are we just looking in the wrong place? Now let's talk suspects, those under the investigation's microscope. First, Zahari Ahmad Shah. At 53, he was the picture of a model pilot, dedicated professional, loved by colleagues. But the simulator data painted a darker picture. The deleted route, the transponder shut down, and the plane's path all pointed to him. His motive unknown. Some speculated marital issues, but his family denied it. No suicide note, no terrorist ties, no financial gain. If Zahari did it, he took his reasons to the grave. But I see him as human, not evil, maybe battling demons no one noticed. Farik Abdul Hamid. The 27-year-old first officer was also examined, but less so. With 763 flight hours, he lacked the experience for such a complex act. Described as devout and recently engaged, he had a bright future. No suspicious behavior surfaced, but his presence in the cockpit raises questions. Did he know anything? Was he trying to stop something, or just an innocent victim? No passengers stood out. The Iranians were cleared, and no one had terrorism links or aviation skills. If there was a hijacker, they left no trace, an almost impossible feat. So where do the theories lead? Let's break them down because each opens a new layer of this mystery. Theory 1. Zahari's suicide. This is the most backed by experts, and it haunts me. The simulator data transponder shut down and flight path suggest cockpit control. The plane flew 7 hours to a desolate ocean, as if someone wanted it lost forever. The strength is the technical evidence. Only a pilot like Zahari could pull it off. The weakness, no motive. His family says he was happy, left no signs of distress. The biggest question: why take 238 others with him? What drove him to that point? Theory 2. Technical failure. A fire or depressurization could have knocked out the crew, letting the plane fly on autopilot until it crashed. It explains the silence like Swiss Air 111 in 1998. But the transponder was manually disabled before any issue. Why no distress call? How did it fly so precisely for 7 hours? Theory 3. Hijacking. Someone, passenger or crew, could have seized control. The course change and system shutdowns suggest intent. But no suspects had the skills, and no group claimed responsibility. Why no demands? Why fly to the middle of nowhere? Theory 4. Supernatural. Some believe UFOs or a time warp took MH370. The lack of wreckage fuels this, but the debris proves it crashed. No scientific evidence supports this. Why only this plane? Theory 5. Military conspiracy. Some claim MH370 was shot down or diverted to a secret base like Diego Garcia. It explains the secrecy and missing wreck, but hiding a 777 is nearly impossible. Why no leaks after a decade? My take: I lean towards Zahari, not as a villain, but as a complex man, maybe lost in his own struggles. That deleted simulator route feels like a whisper from his mind, a plan and escape, or a fleeting thought he never meant to act on. But if it was him, why no explanation? And if not, what happened in that cockpit? MH370 isn't just about a plane. It's about human secrets, the things we never say, even to those we love. The investigation, despite its passion, left more questions than answers. But this mystery didn't just touch investigators. It tore through the hearts of victims' families, reshaped how we view aviation, and left a scar on society. To grasp the full story, we need to look at those left behind, the families who never stopped searching, the communities gripped by obsession, and the changes MH370 etched into our world. After all those eerie clues, relentless searches, and endless tears, the story of MH370 remains an open wound, not just for investigators, but for the people left behind. While teams scoured the southern Indian Ocean and experts dissected every satellite ping, the families of the 239 passengers and crew faced an indescribable pain, losing loved ones without knowing where they went, what happened, or if they're even gone. MH370's mystery isn't just a technical puzzle. It's a human tragedy, a tidal wave of emotion that rippled from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, from newsrooms to quiet homes, and changed forever how we see the world. Yet, amid this grief, a new clue emerged, a faint light in the darkness, making the story even more haunting. Let's start with those hit hardest, the victims' families. Of the 227 passengers, 153 were Chinese, making this a national tragedy for them. When news of MH370 broke, dozens of families gathered at Beijing's airport where the plane was supposed to land that morning. They held each other, sobbed, and waited for any word from Malaysia Airlines. But all they got was silence, vague promises and shrugs from officials. One mother, eyes swollen with tears, screamed to reporters, "I just want to know where my son is." That raw, desperate cry became a symbol for hundreds of others. Another father, Wen Wancheng, refused to leave the airport for weeks, clutching his son's photo as if their staying there could bring him back. In Malaysia, families held candlelit vigils and prayers, clinging to hope for a miracle. Maimuna Ibrahim, the mother, planning to give her son that embroidered handkerchief, left a void her family can't fill. Her son, now in Beijing, keeps the handkerchief in a wooden box, a keepsake of a love his mother never got to deliver. These stories break my heart. These aren't just 239 names. They're people with dreams, love, and plans cut short. Their families didn't just lose loved ones. They lost the right to know the truth, the right to closure. That pain quickly turned to anger. Chinese families feeling abandoned by Malaysia Airlines, and the Malaysian government staged protests in Beijing and Kuala Lumpur. They held signs reading, "Bring our families back," and demanded transparency. Some accused Malaysia of hiding information or worse, sabotaging the investigation. In Malaysia, families also lost trust in authorities, especially when early radar reports were delayed. A sister who lost her brother told the press, "They tell us to wait, but wait for what?" Another lie. That helplessness mixed with a lack of clarity created a deep rift between the families and those responsible. Malaysia's and China's rich spiritual cultures shaped how families coped. In Malaysia, people held rituals on beaches, burning incense and releasing flowers into the sea, hoping to guide lost souls home. Some hired mediums to contact the departed, believing the ocean held them due to an unresolved curse. In China, families burned paper money and performed Buddhist rites, praying for peace for their loved ones. These rituals weren't just coping mechanisms. They were a reminder that MH370 wasn't just an accident. It was a mystery touching humanity's deepest fears about what lies beyond our understanding. The global community was swept into MH370's vortex. In Malaysia, mosques, temples, and churches held interfaith prayers, a rare show of unity. But internationally, especially in the US and Europe, the mystery's scale captivated people. MH370 wasn't just a disappearance. It was a real-life thriller that held the world's attention. On Reddit and X, thousands of armchair detectives shared analyses of Inmarsat data, radar, and satellite imagery. Some claimed to find the wreck on Google Earth, only to hit dead ends. These efforts showed the public's obsession, but sometimes trivialized the family's pain, turning MH370 into a game rather than a tragedy. The media's role was a double-edged sword, and I'll be honest, It's messy. Right after the disappearance, CNN and BBC ran near-constant coverage with sensational headlines like "The Vanished Plane" or "Aviation's Greatest Mystery." CNN caught flack for dwelling on conspiracy theories. UFOs time warps, instead of respecting the family's grief. Shows like 60 Minutes Australia dug into Zahari's life, interviewing his friends, but often ignored his family's pain, forced to endure global suspicion. On MH370 trended for years, but it also spread fakes, phony wreck photos, wild stories about secret bases. The media kept MH370 alive, but sometimes hurt those who needed healing most. But MH370 didn't just leave pain. It sparked profound change. It shook the aviation industry to its core. Before 2014, we thought commercial planes couldn't vanish in the digital age. MH370 proved otherwise, leading to sweeping reforms. In 2016, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, mandated real-time tracking for commercial flights with position signals every minute in emergencies. These changes, though late, are MH370's direct legacy, a bid to prevent another such loss. The social impact runs deeper. In Malaysia, trust in the government eroded, with many feeling officials hid the truth or bungled the response. In China, it sparked debates about aviation safety and airline accountability. Globally, MH370 became a cultural touchstone, likened to Amelia Earhart or the Bermuda Triangle. It's referenced in films, books, and lost episodes where a plane vanishing into the void hits primal fears, being forgotten, swallowed by darkness. That fear, I think, is why MH370 still haunts us. In a world where everything's tracked, your phone's satellites, the idea that a 239-person airliner could disappear is unthinkable. It makes us question technology, our faith in systems we rely on. It reminds us that despite conquering the skies, we're powerless against nature, the ocean, and secrets the world holds tight. Amid all this, a new clue emerged, like a flicker in the dark. In 2024, scientists analyzing ocean currents and MH370's debris proposed a new, smaller search area, a few hundred kilometers from the original zone. Ocean Infinity, which searched in 2018, plans to return in 2025 with advanced tech. This news rekindled hope, especially for families like Maimuna's, still waiting for truth. But it raises a new question. Will we find MH370 this time? Or will the ocean keep its secrets? My take is that MH370 isn't just a disappearance. It's a wake-up call about human fragility. We build giant machines, conquer the skies, but one moment, a choice, a glitch, a secret can unravel it all. I think of Liu Rusheng, his ink-scented art, and Maimuna, her ungiven handkerchief. They deserve to be remembered not as victims, but as people who lived, loved, and dreamed. And I think of Zahari, a man who maybe carried a secret too heavy to share. Whatever the truth, their story changed us. And it will endure, a reminder that sometimes what we lose isn't just physical, it's our faith in the world. But MH370's story isn't over. The clues, the pain, and the changes it left behind lead us to a final chapter, one we hope brings answers, or at least some peace for hearts that have waited too long. After all those haunting clues, tireless searches, and countless tears, we stand before a mystery still unsolved. Over a decade has passed since that night of March 8, 2014, when Boeing 777 flight MH370 vanished from the skies, taking 239 lives and leaving a void that can't be filled. The debris washing ashore, faint satellite pings, and deleted simulator wrote in Zahari Ahmad Shah's home. They're pieces of a puzzle we're still trying to assemble. But despite digging into every detail, from the silent cockpit to the icy depths of the southern Indian Ocean, the truth remains elusive, a shadow taunting us in the dark. MH370 isn't just a disappearance. It's a reminder of human fragility, the secrets we keep. and the questions that may never have answers. Let's revisit what we know and what we don't. MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. bound for Beijing with 227 passengers and 12 crew. Just 38 minutes later, its transponder went dark, and it veered off course, silently crossing the night sky through the Malacca Strait and into the southern Indian Ocean. For the next 7 hours, it flew into oblivion. No distress calls, no passenger messages, only periodic ping signals like a dying machine's last breaths. Debris found on Reunion, Mauritius, and Madagascar confirms it crashed, likely at terrifying speed, shattering into thousands of pieces. But the wrecked black box and remains of 239 souls are still missing, as if the ocean decided to keep them forever. The investigation, costing hundreds of millions and countless hours, yielded clues but no clear answers. Zahari's simulator data hinted at intent, but no motive surfaced. Theories from pilot suicide, technical failure, hijacking to wild ideas like UFOs or military plots each hold allure, but none close the case. The families from Maimuna Ibrahim's kin to Wenwan Chung still wait, their hope fading. The media, with sensational headlines and conspiracies, kept MH370 in the spotlight, but often drowned out the voices needing to be heard. And the world, with new aviation laws and a newfound fear of the unknown, was forever changed by this enigma. But why does MH370 still grip us? Even after all these years, I think it's the lack of an ending. In life, we crave closure, a reason, an explanation, a place to rest our grief. MH370 denies us that. It leaves questions that linger like waves crashing on the Indian Ocean's shores. What happened in the cockpit after Zahari's good night? Did he deliberately fly into darkness, or was he a victim of a larger tragedy? Why didn't a single passenger send a message in 7 hours? And where is the wreck, that massive machine hidden beneath the waves or erased by the sea? These aren't just technical questions. They tap into our deepest fears. Fear of losing loved ones without knowing where they went. Fear that technology, our lifeline, can fail when it matters most. Fear that some secrets in human hearts in the ocean's depths are beyond our grasp. MH370 is a mirror for those fears, and that's why it lives on, a ghostly tale that never fades. I keep thinking about the people on that flight. Liu Rusheng, his calligraphy, dancing on paper, perhaps dreaming of his Chinese home. Maimuna Ibrahim, clutching her embroidered handkerchief, picturing her son's smile. And Zahari Ahmad Shah, the man with the warm smile and mysterious simulator. I don't believe he was evil. I see a human with pressures, dreams, and maybe cracks no one noticed. If he did this, what did he feel in those final hours as the plane glided through darkness toward an unknown end? Did he find peace, or just a loneliness too vast to name? MH370's emotional impact reaches beyond the families. It changed how we view the world. ICAO's new tracking rules are a stark reminder that MH370 exposed gaps in our systems. The eroded trust in Malaysia's government is a scar still raw. And our collective fear that something vast, modern, and controlled can vanish has woven itself into culture, from movies to stories we share. MH370 isn't just a disappearance. It's a tale of fragility, of what we lose and how we live with questions that linger. Yet, a spark of hope remains. In 2024, scientists studying ocean currents and MH370's debris suggested a new, smaller search area a few hundred kilometers from the original zone. Ocean Infinity plans to return in 2025 with better tech. Will we find the wreck, the black box, the answers families have waited for? Or will the ocean hold its secrets, an unyielding gatekeeper? I want to believe the truth is out there, waiting for someone brave enough, patient enough to uncover it. But even if we never find MH370, its story will endure a reminder that sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't in the deep, but in the human heart. My take is that MH370 isn't just an aviation mystery. It's a story about people, about what we hide and what we leave behind. I think of Zahari, his deleted simulator route, and wonder if he was trying to say something, not to us, but to himself. I think of the families still lighting candles, their hope dim but alive. And I think of us drawn to this story, seeking answers, not just for MH370, but for the mysteries in our own lives. MH370 reminds us that sometimes the truth isn't the destination, it's the journey, painful but profound. So what do you think? What happened to MH370? Is Zahari the key, or is there a bigger truth hiding out there? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to hear your theories, whether about the pilot, the ocean, or something beyond imagination. And if you want to dive into more mysteries like this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll unravel another enigma waiting to be told. MH370 may never give us answers, but maybe the truth is still out there waiting for a light to shine upon it.